Hello and welcome. Today I will show you how you can use background services and especially notifications in your Flutterflow project. This might be useful, for example, if you're having a timer which you want to display in the notification bar, or for any other services that you want to execute. In general, you need a background service if you want to execute code um, while even if your application is closed. In my particular scenario, I am reminding my users that they need to do an exercise, and they can see directly in the notification bar when the next exercise will be, and can also check the exercise. So this is synchronized with the main application. I will give you a quick overview of the application I built, and so you can see how exactly this is implemented. So at first, you can choose uh, any kind of exercise you want to do, also the number of exercises. Then you can select the hours, and let's just skip through this. Then you have the main the main page where you just have a usual Flutterflow page which is rather simple to implement, with a timer and an overview how many exercises you did and so on. However, it's not only this, but you also have these notifications. So in the notification bar, you can directly see when the next exercise will be, how many exercises you already did, and so on. And the special thing now is that you can not only use this when your application is open, but for example, you are currently doing something else, you're on Gmail, whatever, and you can go to the notification bar and click on Set erledigt. It's German, means like set done. So you did your exercise, and now you see 2 of 200 is done. Also, there's a sound plate, which is not, which you probably can't hear right now, but this is due to the screen recording. Exactly. So you see, there's this notification. Also, we get notified when we have to do the exercise, and this is synchronized with the main application. So you see, um, the application was closed, and I clicked on Set Done. So I did my exercise, and now it shows here 4 of 200, and the same is in the main application. And here it's also four exercises done. The same as the other way around. So if I click on Set Done in the application, this is also updated in my notification. So, that's the main functionality that I use for the notifications. Also, you have an overview of the of other exercises you have, and some statistics where you can see how many um, exercises and so on you did. But for now, we want to have a look on how to implement these notifications and the background service in general. So let's jump right into Flutterflow. As you saw right now, we were on Android Studio, but this was actually only for the purpose of showing you the application and its functionality. So in Flutterflow, it's a usual Flutterflow project with different pages and so on. Um, but we have our custom actions here. And something that's important is you must not do this within custom functions. Actually, you cannot do this within custom functions because Flutterflow does not support functions of type future within this custom function category. So you actually um, um, need to create custom actions. The main action I am using here is the notification service start stop. And at first we need some packages, which are the Flutter background service, also awesome notifications and permission handler. We need the awesome notification for the notifications, of course. And we cannot display notifications without getting the permission of the user to be able to display them. So that's why we also need the permission handler. And exactly. So we need to import these. I will give you an overview. I will not be able to go in too much into detail because it's just a very, very complex action. As you see, I wrote about 350 lines of code just within this action. And it's actually that complicated because you have to instantiate different isolates and you have to have these isolates communicate with one another. And yeah, also it's a lot of specific application specific things here. So therefore, I think it makes sense to just show you like um, the areas that you need to consider when building such an app and some basic information about this. So at first, I'm using this code to not only start the notification service, but also to stop the notification service. That's why I have a bool as argument where I can say whether I want to start or to stop it. When the should start is false, I'm basically just stopping the application. And if the should start is true, I'm starting the background service. I think I just said application and then background service. Okay. When we want to start the background service, at first we need to initialize our Flutter binding widgets, and afterwards we can initialize the service, which is a custom function which I wrote. And within the initialize service, we are basically just calling the awesome notification initialization action, which is within the library of the awesome notifications package. And it takes at first an icon which will be shown for the notifications, and secondly a notification channel. In Flutter, notification channels are necessary if you want to send notifications because every notification goes through the channel. So, and the notification channel basically sets some basic information about the notifications that are displayed through this channel. So, for example, you can set the importance of the notifications which are displayed in this channel, or whether there should be a vibration or sound being played. And you always have to set the key and also the name, because the key is used later on to refer to this channel that you created there. You need at least one notification channel. I instantiated two because I need two different channels since I'm sending different kinds of notifications, but one might be enough for your case. After that, as you saw in the beginning, I was able to click on a button in the notification. And in order for this button click to be registered, we need to start listening to these notification events. And this function basically just calls the awesome notifications set listeners function, which again is part of the awesome notifications package. Exactly. After we initialize the awesome notifications, so the part that's necessary for the notifications, we also need to initialize or configure our background service. There's a few things that are very important here. At first, here you need to pass the channel ID. So you're basically telling this the background service which notification channel it's supposed to use to display its notifications, and that's necessary because your background service has to display a notification in order for the user to know that there's actually a background service running. And that's why you need this channel ID. And of course, this channel ID has to refer to a channel that you instantiated in the first place. So I went for idle key here and got the same key here. With this configuration, well, after the configuration, you can start the service. And when you start the service, um, you are starting the function that you are passing here. The function you're passing here is the onStart function, which is this one. And now it's getting a bit complicated because I mentioned that this runs with isolates. So usually when your code is executed step by step. So one after the other. And like this, it actually wouldn't be even possible to have some separate code running in the background um, while running in your notification. Um, yeah, so how is that possible? Well, usually you can do this with multi-threading, but in Flutter, there's another concept called isolates. And you can think of this like the following. It's like you have your main application with your UI and all the things that you're doing in Flutterflow, and these are in the main application bubble. In the yeah, it's the main isolate. So there's the one main isolate that's running its own code. With starting this background service, you're actually instantiating another isolate. So you now have two bubbles, your main bubble and your background service bubble, which uh, which then performs its own code. So you have two bubbles executing their own code. And the problem is the following that, oh, it's not necessarily a problem, but it adds some complexity. These bubbles execute their own code and they cannot access each other's memory. So if you want to use some information in your background service, so in your notification, you want to display some information that you have in your app, you cannot simply refer to this information, but you have to manually send this information to the background service and vice versa. So that's the reason why when we are starting the onStart function, so we initialize the notifications, we configure the service. Now we are starting the service. That's why in the onStart function, we have to initialize receive ports. So with the receive port, with the instantiation of the receive port, we are telling, okay, we have a main isolate and we have a background isolate. And for the background isolate, in the background isolate, we are setting up a receive port in which messages and the information that's sent from another isolate can be received and also can be and you can also send information from the background isolate to the main isolate with this port. So the port is like the only way your different bubbles can communicate with one another, and the only way that you can exchange information from your background isolate to your with your main isolate. So that's really necessary when you want to display some dynamic data in your notification or in general in your background service. Also, we are registering here or port by name, so we can find it later on. So now that we registered the port, theoretically, the main application, the main isolate could now send information to this receive port. However, it wouldn't do anything. So we need to set up a listen function. So the background isolate actually realizes that it got some information and realizes if it receives something and how to act upon it. So that's why we start this receive port action, which will be executed if the if the receive port gets a message from another ISO. And we are checking here for different types of messages, which type it is, and acting upon it with different actions. The rest of this function is basically just parsing data in order to be able to send the message to another isolate, because that's another thing. You cannot send any kind of data between your isolates, but only like the basic ones like integer, string, bool, and something like that. Um, so if you want, for example, to send a date time between your two isolates, you have to pass them first into a format that's actually transferable, like string or something. That's more or less what I'm doing here. So afterwards, I'm calling the perform actions and backgrounds action. You could potentially also do this in the on start function, but I decided to um, create an extra function for this, so it's not so crowded in there. So we have the initialization, we have the on start function where we set up the receive ports and we listen for changes and we do some other parsing stuff. And then we are actually telling what to do in the background. So this perform actions in background is what's being performed in the background isolate more or less all the time. Why all the time? Well, because I'm starting an infinite loop here, which I will show you in a few seconds. The first thing when I'm starting the actions in background is that I'm sending a notification. I'm using do a set notification here. That's a function I built myself. It's basically just referring to the awesome notification, create notification event, action or a function. And well, it just displays a notification and you can specify some data, how it will look, what data it will show, and so on. Something important, again, you have the channel ID, so you decide which channel this should be shown, and you have a notification ID in which you can specify, for example, if a new notification should just lay over the old one, or if they should exist separately, and so on. Well, one thing that's a bit stupid and actually pretty frustrating is the notification layout thing, and I want to tell you something about that because, well, notification layout, you might think, okay, it's a layout, it's probably supposed to set how the notification is looking. And well, while that's true, that's just the half of the truth because the notification layout does not only specify how the notification is looking, but actually how the system is treating it. And it's very frustrating. And I think I debugged this for like 3 days because there's no documentation about it and it was just trial and error. And the thing is the following. Depending on the notification layout you're choosing, you might have a pop-up or no pop-up. There might be a sound plate or no sound plate, even though in the notification channel you set the sound to true or false. Um, yeah, so keep that in mind that if something is not working as you expected, this might actually be caused by the notification layout not fitting your needs. A simple one small thing or one small tip I want to give you there is if you want the sound to be played and if you want a pop-up to be created, then use the notification layout default. And if you do not want any pop-up or just at the first time, then use the notification layout of media player or progress bar. But that's just a small thing that I want to tell you. Furthermore, you saw in the notifications I showed you in the beginning, there was an action button you could click on in order to perform a specific action, and you have to specify the action button in the notification you're showing, and you also have to give it a key. So later on, when you're clicking that button, that that the application knows which button you just clicked. So for the action button to work, you need to set up the listeners, which I showed you in the beginning. You have to add an action button here, specify the key. And something that's important is you have to use this piece of code to set an entry point when the action is clicked, when the button is clicked. So yeah, this just listens to this and is the point where where the code actually hooks when you're clicking that button. And here it's again the key that's referred to. So we were on the perform actions in background function. It should be this one, yes. So I send a notification, wait a bit, and then I'm starting a loop. And within this loop, I'm just constantly checking and updating. So the loop is executed, and in the end, I'm waiting 1 second. So this loop is executed once per second, roundabout. And in this code, I'm updating the notifications. So as you saw, I had a timer in the or countdown timer in the notification, and in order to update this timer, this clock counting down, yeah, you have to create a new notification and send it, which I'm doing here. And yeah, that's the way you have to go if you want to update any information in the notification you're sending. So that's about the perform actions background function. And yeah, that's basically it. Again, I'm really sorry that it's just an overview and not in detail, but as you can see, it's really getting very complicated. Especially there's a few more things like um, I also implemented a port for the main isolate, and there's just a lot of messages being sent back and forth, and yeah, it's complicated. But if there's anything you need to know, so I just gave you an overview of the important things, and if you say, hey, I didn't understand how isolates work or how to implement the notifications, then feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help. So now that you implemented the notification, the custom actions in Flutterflow, um, you could simply just publish this to the Play Store, and it would work for only Android device. I think under API 31. I'm not sure about that, like 31, 32, and the other ones actually will not work, um, and that's because due to a change in the Android policies. So in order to make it work for the higher APIs, you will have to download code. Then you will have a package. You need to extract the files and then open that file in Android Studio, and that's basically the only thing I did here. So you have your project here. Then you click on Android, App, Source, Main, and then you open the Android manifest XML. Because in order to make it work for higher Android versions, we need to edit the Android XML, and that's also the reason why we need to extract it from Flutterflow, because you cannot edit the Android manifest in there yet, which is quite a shame, to be honest. But that's the way it works. By the way, don't use the Android manifest XML under the profile folder. You need this one in the main folder. And here are just basically two changes you have to make. First, you need to add these three permissions: schedule exact alarm, foreground service, and also there's different types of foreground services which you can find in the Android documentation. Um, like there's also service location and so on. You will have to take a look which one is fitting for you. For me, it's data sync is fitting, and then you also add this one. So it's these three, and for this you will have to look which one is fitting for you. So add these three, and the last thing you need to add is this service section, in which you're again specifying which foreground service type you're using. For me, again, it's data sync. So I hope that you liked it, and that I could give a quick overview on how to implement this. Again, I'm sorry that it's not that in detail, but if you have any questions regarding the things you need to do, then just reach out to me and I'll be happy to help.